Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel at Chelsea. I'm just beginning to wonder, Simon, is he learning the true art of contradiction? Now, I'll expand on that. He seems to be changing his mind when he discusses whether or not the current ownership situation is indeed a distraction for his Chelsea players, or is it not? Is it a reason for their faltering form, or does it have nothing to do with it? In fact, don't listen to me, listen to Thomas. 3 days ago, this was him on not using the ownership as any form of an on-field excuse.
I don't think that ownership is a reason for lack of focus. I don't think that there is a lack of focus. I think we're focused, and we showed, like during the situation when it began, that we can still focus. I would not consider I would not consider this as an advantage for the match against Leeds. Absolutely not.
No, we can't use that as any kind of form of an excuse. And then fast forward to yesterday, 3 days on from what he said there. This was him on the same subject.
I think there's no sense in hiding from the fact that it is a distraction. And it's a matter of like how, to which level can we still live up, even if we are distracted or like worried or like disadvantaged by it. And then maybe something also very human and normal took place, like in the moment of 2 weeks off, or 1 week off, but the players were not here. They were like also different influences to them, and maybe more thoughts about the situation in general. And the situation is now very, very long, and the players also want to feel competitive. They want to know what's going on next season. The guys who, some player like Tony decided then to change the club. So with every day it gets a bit more difficult. It's not impossible, but it gets more difficult, and it has an influence. And still we are looking for reaching the level that we are still competitive and can win games. So it's still no excuse, but it is for sure a reason.
Isn't it amazing the difference that 3 days can make?
Well,
so he's almost talking in the same way there in that second clip, the same way that Martin Keown spoke last Friday, that it is a distraction. So he started that second burst, Trevor. I think there's no sense in hiding from the fact that it's a distraction. But that's not what he said 3 days before, far from it.
Yeah, listen, he might have been trying to cover things up 3 days ago. But I think at the beginning of when this started with the ownership model at Chelsea and a new owner coming in, I think it was quite easy to keep a lid on it and keep the boys focused. But the longer it's dragged on, and the more uncertain the players are about the future, not just of the football club, but individuals within that group. And we spoke about it before. You know, there was Rudiger, he was in his last year. Azpilicueta is in his last year. Christensen is in his last year. But that's their main, three of their better four defenders. 3 of them have gone. Because they don't know what the certainty of the future.
But
is
that
football.
why they've gone? Would those 3 not be gone if Abramovich
Well, I
was
think
still
if
in charge?
I think if Azpilicueta,
Rudiger wants to go to Real Madrid.
I would say Azpilicueta possibly could have stayed. I think Rudiger and Christensen, it's a different matter, because I think the fact that they delayed on their contract extensions in the first place, and we were talking about this last summer, I think they always had their eyes on leaving.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you have to get context in the manner in which the question is being asked of Tuchel, in terms of, is it disruptive to have some uncertainty about planning for the next season? So he can give an answer, say, is it disruptive now? Right? Should the players be disrupted now? And the answer would be no. If you're talking contextually about disruption for the ensuing season planning, then you could say, yes, there's a distraction as a result of it. It is preposterous to allow players to hide behind what's happening off a pitch when it doesn't directly affect them. Rudiger was out of contract this year, and everybody knew it a year ago, and clearly they didn't want him. Christensen played hide and seek with himself, right, and was offered a contract, gave the manager an assurance that he was going to take that contract, so much so that Tuchel came out and castigated his own player about his behaviour. Right? So when we talk about this uncertainty, players can wait. They can have a pause. None of these guys are going to the poorhouse.
No.
And none of these guys aren't going to be snapped up in a month's time or 2 months' time, right? They're all going to have opportunities. So they could have all shown something that's a very rare commodity, a bit of patience and a bit of loyalty to the football club, and wait for the ownership that was always going to change. We all knew when this ownership was going to change. Thomas Tuchel could have easily said to his players, here's what's going to happen. I've met with the new ownership group. I've got an understanding from the ownership group that status quo is going to be maintained. And we've just got an undertaking. That we're going to continue to spend hundreds of millions of pounds per year because it keeps getting packaged as a £4.25 billion bid. No one's paying 2.5 billion for Chelsea for them to go slumping down the league, are they? They're paying 2.5 billion to continue the status quo of development of Chelsea. So lads, call your jets, trust your manager. I'm going to keep it in order. You're wanted, you're not, right? But no, we don't want to operate that way because it starts with the old adage of it's me, myself and I. It's about me, what I want, how I want it, when I want it, where I want it. And by the way, some more of that too. All for one and all for me is the mentality.
I slightly disagree, Simon, because you're actually going against what you just said. Because before, when we were talking about Chelsea and the new owners coming in,
yes,
and it's a £2.5 billion project, they want to earn 10% of their money. How are they going to continue to be successful and competitive? You said you can't round the square now. Now, if you're saying that on one side, how can you expect the players to want to who've been allowed? Wait, let me finish. Who've been allowed to let their contracts get down to the last year? Forget about negotiations last summer. They've been allowed. As soon as you get into that kind of jurisdiction, you're in your last year. You're going to walk. Unless the club come with an unbelievable offer. That's exactly what Rudiger's doing, and that's exactly what Christensen's doing. And now, on top of that, club captain Azpilicueta's doing it as well.
Chelsea.
So they've been allowed to get into that situation. But when...
Because they haven't been wanted.
Rudiger, one of the best defenders in the world.
Well, you can make your case for him whatever you think he is, right? Frank Lampard didn't think he was, right? And I agree he's a very good player, right? But Mourinho, who everyone's advancing, is a really good negotiator who's being taken by the new management structure, allowed this situation to manifest itself. It was only going one way by the summer of last year because you were always going to be a hostage to fortune. You were always going to end up with the threat of a free transfer and someone being able to leverage his
salaries.
Unless
you do your due diligence and do your business before then. Either sell them off or give them a new contract.
You don't have to do due diligence if the person's in the bleeding building, do you?
Well,
You've got
do.
A contract.
You either have to sign them on or sell them.
What you do due diligence on is something you don't know. Right? If you've got the player in a building made under contract, you don't have to do due diligence on that. Now, the point you're making about the £250 million, if I'm right on the fact that there's a return required, you're less likely to get a return, aren't you, if you diminish the product. Right? So they're going to keep on promoting the product. It's about how they tie the knots up, how they generate extra revenue, and how they make this club successful. So if ever there was a need to be successful, if ever there was a need to win Champions Leagues, to win the Premier League, to be at the top of the league, it's probably even more so now because Abramovich was sat there going, the only thing I want to maintain is my ego. I want my team to be best served, and I don't care about the return on the money. These guys do care about the return on the money.
Similar to the Glazers.
So they're not going to get anywhere unless they build a successful side. The Glazers are a different dynamic. The Glazers are a different set of animals, right? They didn't pay 2.5 billion of someone else's money for the football club. They paid 200 million of their own. So with that in mind, I think that Thomas Tuchel and this idea, it is an awful excuse, Jim. Martin Keown made it the other day. It is awful and people should not tolerate it. It is not acceptable that players use excuses and the football mafia use excuses to explain their performances by something that does not affect them. They get their salaries. They all know that they're going to go and have an opportunity somewhere else. So every single time one smidgen, one scintilla of adversity comes a football person's way, they'll blame everybody else. Every time it's success, we are the architects of that success. Every single time it's a failing, it's like, success has many fathers and failure's an orphan. It's the other way around in football.
Tuchel's way off the mark here. I think there's no sense in hiding from the fact it's a distraction.
It is a distraction. No, he's right. But the premise is, why should it be allowed to be so?
There you go.
Why should we allow that to be not pushed back on and go, sod off you? You want a distraction? I'll give you a distraction. Go to a food bank. That's a distraction for you. How about that?
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.